Morning, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are having a good morning today. All right, so today I am on the PTS. Very important why I'm on here today. So, as many people know, I go through this little spurt and spree of like a guild or trolls subbing, trolling, they get banned, they unsub, whatever have you, and then I still have the same guild and the same trolls from the PS4 who whatever pop in and want to argue day and night. The fact of it is, we're all human, we all make mistakes, but it's always important, very important to test and test and test and test. It's what you always do. You're always going through and you're testing things. Why? Because you don't want to believe that one thing is an absolute truth. Right? And that's the subject of today. Yesterday I made a mistake on a live stream, and it's always refreshing for me when my community or somebody wants to, say, hey, Mystic, you forgot something, and oh, you should have done this, and something like that. I have no pride, and the funny thing about it is, sometimes even I will overlook something, and we all do that, right? Because we're human, right? It's just something we are a part of. But in today's video, I want to talk about why certain people can't handle the truth. And when it comes to the meta, those players cannot sometimes swallow their pride or handle the truth. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to run a pretty meta configuration. Then we're going to run my meta breaker configuration. And we're going to show just little simple thing based on static attacks, values, things like that, to show there's a loss to gain depending on what weapons you're going to use, which configuration you're going to use, all of these different factors, right? All of them. We'll go through the champion points. We'll go through a lot of little things to say, okay, well, here's this. Here's what we're seeing. And we need to take and recognize that. Say, oh, okay, wait a minute. So I always try to come in with an unbiased approach that keeps an open mind. And this allows me to interact with you guys to say, oh, okay, wait a minute. What are we seeing and what are we not seeing? Okay, so I've gotten a lot of hate because of the title, Meta Breaker, but we're going to be going over that. So in today's video, we're going to be running a pretty standard setup here. So I'm going to run 3 pieces of 2FANG. I'm not going to alternate anything. Now keep in mind I'm on PTS, so unfortunately my agility set I'm going to be using here are gold. That will give it a slight increase, not much, but is it relevant? Yes, but at the same time it's still going to display what we're going to see. Now you don't see gold agility in live. Okay, so I don't know why we have gold agility on PTS. To be honest with you, I have no idea. So, anyway, so we've got 5 pieces of the automation. We have 3 of a, sorry, that's the wrong set. Let me switch that out. Let me go to my inventory, grab the wrong set here. Sometimes that'll happen. There we go. There we go. Like I said, you always want to keep an unbiased approach, especially when you're testing stuff. I find that to be the most beneficial, especially when I'm trying to figure configurations and whether or not a loss is worth anything, and if it's a long-term gain in the long run. There it is. All right, there we go. Let me switch that out again. All right. Okay. So this is a pretty standard configuration for trial players. And you can switch this out with something like War Machine or something if you wanted to, or whatever else have you. I mean, this gives the critical value. I'm a red guard. If I wanted to go with War Machine, which I can do that. So let's say I just go with the War Machine because it has a base standard. It's probably the better option because, you know, it won't skew base damage. So, but it's giving us the Miner Slayer. That's the most important aspect here, is comparing Miner Slayer with other configurations. Now, in Horns of the Reach, when I tested, Miner Slayer was not dealing more damage than Agility or Willpower. It had a higher ceiling cap, but all buffs had to be applied with Warhorn applied to exceed. And that means you had to have 100% Warhorn rotation uptime to reap the benefits of out DPSing Agility or Willpower, which, let's be honest, just wasn't happening. But for the people who want to see it and everything, that's why we're here. So I'm keeping an unbiased approach. We're going to take a look at it. We'll dissect it, and we'll go over it. All right. So one of the things, I'm just going to go ahead. We'll start off. Four, 6, 7, 0. Now, mind you, I'm not altering any of the enchantments on the jewelry. All right. So 4, 6, 7, 0 on that. 1853. Okay. Now, we've taken care of that. So 1853, we were getting on our jabs. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch out to Agility. Now, I know it's gold. You don't have to tell me about it. I don't know why Zoss did it. Okay. Four, 6, 5. 1844. Okay. Okay, we'll put that back on. I always go back and forth. Sorry. Let me get that buff up again, though. So, 1853 for Slayer with the buff. Come on. Okay, that's good. Okay, so 18.4. So Slayer's pushing up less than 10 points. Now it will scale higher with a buff. So Agility now isn't hitting. Now I'm going to go ahead and configure my build with the automatons. So I have the master weapons right now. So I'm going to switch out for one of the automatons, 1853. Right. Five. Right. And I just switch out one of these pieces. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and then proc it to get the boost. All right. Come on. 1870. Okay. Do it again. 1870. $18.70. Okay. One of the main important things to realize when we're testing these things is how marginal the differences are, right? So we looked at 853 with Slayer, right? And this is dealing 1870 on base. That's, in a long sense, it's like, okay, well, it's dealing more when the powerful assault is applied. Well, that's the point of the build that I did. That's just the point. It's just buffing me and my party members. That's why I use it. And that's why I call it Meta Breaker, because, well, it doesn't go with the meta and it works really well, right? For not only me, but for my team. I'm not debating the configuration of what most players want to run. If it works, and I always tell people this, if it works, keep it. Right? If it's working for your play style, no harm in changing it. There's no point in changing it if it's going to work for you. But I don't go to the meta, and I never comply with the meta because I'm always looking to push my own expectations up and try to build around players who may or may not have said whatever. Now, it's kind of interesting because we see a 9-point difference between agility and the Slayer. Now, it's pointless to put on the VO because the critical value isn't going to increase the base. War Machine will. So that wasn't a very, very also important factor because that base stamina is going to majorly help with the DPS. But you still have to hit the critical percentage value in the long run. So if you're needing crit and you want to deal more substantial critical damage, you still might need, you know, the Thief Mundus. You still might need, you know, precise weapons. A lot of people are just pushing out raw damage without critical value, and that's fine, you know, but it's pointless putting into something like precise strikes if you're not going to exceed that 50-something% critical value. So, let me check something. All right. All right, so let's go back in. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and test. We'll keep the War Machine up. That's fine. We'll go back to the 5-piece automatons. And then we'll test some bows. Okay. So, let's go out. Switch that. Switch that. Okay. So, bleeds is really nice for the master axes, especially if you're going to use the rendering. If you're going to run this type of configuration, it's going to be up to you. And the master bow is going to increase the damage of volley by 161 each tick. Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and hit the volley. Okay, so we see a scaling effect without the major brutality. Right, with Maelstrom. Start seeing incrementally increase the longer the duration lasts. Okay, which is a great ability. It's great. Preferably, I like Master Bow, and I'll show you why I like the Master Bow better if I run a config like that, but I typically don't. Okay. So when I put on the Master Bow, you increase your weapon damage by 301 against targets affected. So your weapon damage increases, right? Kind of important here to realize that, because prior without Maelstrom, we see a low end of base of 723, right? All of a sudden, we go ahead, use that Master Bow, get that proc, drop it now, and now we're seeing 766. But that's across the board with every ability now. So versus one ability that will scale up higher for the duration, what we end up seeing with the Master Bow is, excuse me, is an increase to weapon damage, right? It's an increase to weapon damage, period. Do you need it? Well, as I just showed you guys, after I go ahead and hit with this and I do my jabs, I'm dealing 1804 base, right? Okay, so that's pretty good. It's really good. So I'm dealing 1804 base. But if I go back to the same configuration that I'm using currently, okay, come on. Okay. All right. So I don't have it slotted anymore. But I'm going to hit the caltrops, hit the proc. And I'm dealing 1870. Okay, and I'll hit the minor brutality on the other one too. I thought I did. So it's 1870 base. See if we can exceed it a little bit. That's why I like Master Bow. You can run Master Bow with this type of configuration too. All right. So, take that back off. Go back with the War Machine. Put on those Master Axes again. $1870. All right. So I don't need to use the caltrops to test it, but what I want to do, hit this, and there it is, 1963. This is why I love the Master Bow so much better. I still love the Master Bow. If I'm going to use a whatever, and I'm not going to use Asylum for a certain build, I love the Master Bow because of its effect. Morning, Snoop. Hope you had a good day, dude. Morning. So if preferably over, I mean, Maelstrom's a good bow. It's a great bow. But I still like the Master because the 301 it applies to every ability. I mean, it just applies to every ability. It's really strong, right? And if you wanted to run that in like a type of configuration that I typically run with, you can do that. And let me show you how you can set that up. So what I can do is literally grab another powerful assault weapon. And that's why I said I usually build to average players and then have them whatever if they get the weapons. Okay. So, so I'll grab a sword because they don't have another axe in here, which sucks. Sword, sure. Is that one? No, it's two. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me show you guys how you could set this up if you want to use a master weapon, still maintain the benefits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on 2 powerful assaults, right? So I'm going to put a powerful assault. Well, I don't have the Nirnholm. That sucks. Hold on. Maybe I can get one real quick. Alright. Browse. Services. Yes. All right. Now, I'm going to transmute this to Nirnholm. So we maintain it. Show you guys how you can set up that configuration. Now, I do not put that type of stuff in my build videos because I anticipate a lot of people don't have it. So, go ahead. You slot this. Slot another one, right? You're going to replace for jewelry, right? So now you have all of it with the weapons, and you still have your 5 automaton, right? The only difference is you have now the master belt. All the configuration stays the same, right? So now what I can do is literally still hit, switch, drop, and now I'm dealing over 2,000 instead of 19. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I keep that up. $2,000. 2014 versus 19. That's why I prefer, like, Maelstrom bow's great. Master, just that nice hit. It's like an enchantment with, you know, without a cooldown while it's applied. It's really strong. You know, in my opinion, if you're not going to run like certain configurations, it's fine. But like I said, the difference of it was without using that and using just War Machine. Because remember, the Master is just going to apply one effect to each tick. It's like, okay. That's why I'm always saying, you know, there's a loss, gain and loss for what you're going to configure, right? So now I have the War Machine, right? Now I'm going to go ahead. Up. And we're dealing 1963. So we topped 2013 with my configuration, right? 1963, right? Morning, Lewis. So anytime I test, and I kind of just want to reintegrate this. I never want people to believe that I'm 100% correct at all times. And I always tell people that. Don't even believe me, test things. Yesterday was one of those prime examples where, you know, you can be wrong. And it's okay. You can you accept that. You know, it's okay if you're wrong every once in a while. I got caught. I honestly was not paying attention. Boom. Simple. Simple. Something very simple. But have everybody else made mistakes as far as content creators? Yes. We all have. And I think a lot of people, even though they're afraid to admit it, can be wrong. But you got to keep an open mind and not let things, you know, like, oh, I can't believe it. Like jump points. You know, a lot of people thought, like, if the round had hold, now I don't have anything in the CP. And would that make a difference? You know, penetration and things like that. But a lot of people literally thought the whole value was not apparent. Right? Remember that? They were like jumping over the 14% if it was a hole. Now, 707, that's a jump point, the 7, because it has to be rounded up, right? But literally, when it came down to the whole value, which we only see one time in any configuration, right? See, that's 1301, is when you get closer to your peak. So that's a whole, right? So a lot of people were just putting 1 point over to 1407 because they thought the jump point had to be exceeded. And I'll just go ahead and demonstrate that right here real quick. Okay. So a lot of people thought the jump point had to be exceeded, right? That was the whole premise of it. So 1937, right? Got to exit combat. We're just going to take a 1 point over. Now let's see if we do more than 1937 base. And we don't. Right? We don't. Okay, so that was a misconception, right? And that's my point. We all can make mistakes. It's okay, right? It's okay. That's what we're trying to do as a community, right? We're trying to improve our gameplay, work together to do what? Excel. Trying to get better, right? That's what the whole goal is. And like I said, I never rag on anybody's configuration. Just wanted to say that I'm very impressed that you didn't let your pride get in the way and accepted your mistake. A lot of people wouldn't even have uploaded the video. I actually was doing it live, Lewis, and that's why I wanted to do it live. But you're right. Like, okay, so I had to lose pride a long time ago, right? For me personally, like, I learned it the hard way, was the unfortunate situation. And I think we still all have a sense of pride, right? Because we were doing trials yesterday, me and my guild, and we're grooming people for vet. And we were in mall, going over like Luna phase and kind of breaking things down and grooming people for running and stuff like that. And the one... I was looking for another Alkosh axe. So I have one Alkosh axe, but I need another one. I'm still looking for one more. And it was funny because they were saying, if we get the axe, my friend, now this was last week and it carried over to this week. Mystic has to admit that Alkosh is good on main tanks. I'm like, that'll never happen, and our main tank in here will never run Alkosh. I was on my Stamsork and he runs Alkosh. So, and yesterday I was showing like how to stagger synergies to keep applying. You can do it with one person, without tank. Stamsork's really good at it. That's why I like it on the Stamsork. I can stay in pocket a little longer, unless I have to run. But I had to learn to swallow pride, man. And I think we all can hold on. But they were like, if you admit it. And I will never admit it. So there's a little bit of pride still there that you kind of lays with all of us. But keeping an open mind and accepting mistakes is a good thing in life, and I believe that. Why? Because you can get better. You learn. I lost states when I was really young, and it killed me because I thought I was invincible, that I was unstoppable. I was going to, there was no one who's going to beat me, and the guy just played defensive and he played counter better than I did, and he beat me by points, and my pride sank me into depression after that. And it felt humiliating, right? So what ends up happening, if you have a lot of pride, you get humiliated, right? Because you can't accept it. But when you let pride go and you can accept these type of things, oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. When you accept that you're not always going to be right, and you open up the capabilities and the possibilities, you can learn, and we all can do that. And that's what I'm trying to do. Like I always told people, I want players to play the game how they want, whether they have accessibility or they don't have accessibility, and know that those differences can be approached, right? So like in this, for example, agility is slightly underperforming. Slightly underperforming the War Machine. Why? Because of the stamina, right? So that's apparent. But no, let me get back in here. Let me do this. Okay, so I got the master. Okay, yeah. Make sure I have all 5 of my automatons. Okay, there we go. So agility is slightly underperforming War Machine, right? And I'll get into Vicious here. So 1935 without any buff or anything. You guys will see that. Okay, and I opted to do this versus Vicious, and I'll show the Vicious. But critical value is still important, right? Did I grab the wrong neck? Oh. No, yeah, I put that on. I need coffee. I still haven't made my coffee yet. Okay. So look, there's only a slight difference. But trial sets do what? They scale up with buffs. Well, so does everything else, but percentage value will carry even higher at one point, at certain points. Because it's a magnification to base number. 5% on top of 5% on top. So the more buffs and more go up, those values will carry over versus base at one point. But it's marginal. That's what I'm trying to say. But then all of a sudden you put on something like Vicious, where those critical values you may or may not need, depending on your, stat sheet, right? You're going to see less. Crit's going to be more frequent. But look, 1904. So we see 1904 now versus War Machine. Why? Because we got a higher critical value. That's why, but we're critting more frequently. So, Slayer's still being applied. So, just takes the base damage and just woof, But do you need it? Yeah. So when we take that back look at that agility set, see, now we're at 1935 versus 1904. Come on. And this is up by 1937. So 2-point difference. Right? It's 2 points. It's just 2 points. Like, it's marginal. It's so marginal. Like, that's what I'm always telling people. But look what ends up happening when you apply another buff. So if I go with the Major Brutality and throw this up, right? Now we're dealing 2100. Right? Why? Because Major Brutality is going to be a buff that's going to affect Minor Slayer. Right? Minor Slayer is magnified by buffs. But look, 2102. That's what I'm saying. So literally, agility and Slayer are so close, but it's not until you get all those buffs with Warhorn, then all of a sudden, poof, bam, it spikes. And it hits harder. It has like a higher cap. And once again, man, truth of it is, and that's what this is about, is players want to believe that something's always going to be the absolute law and rule just because one person says it. That's not the case. All right, guys. We're human. We make mistakes. It's best to always test, and more test. That's why I'm always saying, if it works for you, then who's to question it, right? I mean, who's to question that, right? If it's working for a player, That's why I don't get. Like, you know, people want to say it has to be. Why does it have to be? Because I'm demonstrating right here those differences, right? So my meta breaker build exceeds the standard of what that other configuration would yield for me. It's not going to produce anymore. And I'm offering a utility buff to my entire party. Now, am I saying that's better? No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it exceeds my performance. It exceeds my group's performance. Right? Because it's getting applied. Right? That's all. You know, if people are still running that set up and it's getting them through the content, that's fine. And I always tell people, I never build to players who don't have. Master Bow, in my opinion, is better than Maelstrom, because that 301 applies to all abilities versus Maelstrom's one effect ability, right? Same thing with Asylum. I get 3 effects versus 1 effect. You know, is Maelstrom a bad weapon? No, absolutely not. But I'm always telling people, you don't have to have it. It's a perk. Same thing with the Master Axes. It's a perk. But that's the problem with the Master Weapons. It's only going to apply to SED, right? It's only applying to SED. So when I go ahead and I put on that Automaton or that Powerful Assault, so all of a sudden I go with the Powerful Assault. I grab this. I grab the axe of the Powerful Assault. Then all of a sudden I switch out that jewelry, right? Now I have a configuration that allows me to maintain my 5 pieces of Powerful Assault, my 5 automatons, my monster set, and what? My Maelstrom Bow. So, yeah, my Master Bow. So now when I switch over, I can get the best of everything. That's why I'm always telling people, you don't have to have it. It's a configuration type thing. But now I can go ahead, I can apply it. I can drop it. I can hit it. Right? That's relevant. It's going to apply those set effects. Now I'm dealing 2,291 with the set effects. Where I was dealing 21, so I'm getting an extra 100 and something. Right? So that's the best. That's the same thing. Percentage value, 15%. You know, it's going to scale the more weapon damage I have. So the more weapon damage I'm yielding, the more it's going to improve. So, but, you know, you guys, Lewis, and everybody who's watching, you guys are why I do it. And I'm never going to tell anybody that anybody's build's trash. It's never going to happen. It's not. But when it comes down to players saying, this class shouldn't play this role in endgame, I don't believe that, man. I'm sorry. You know, and that's one thing I'm really enjoying with my guildmates. You know, I'm like, there are certain things we need to improve our group performance. Like sets like Sunder. And it's funny that now people are now talking about Sunder when nobody was taking a look at it. And all of a sudden I'm mentioning the power of deduction sets. And now people are talking about Sunder. It's like, okay. But yet you guys didn't have a build video with Sunders. Whatever. But now it's like whatever. And that to me is what, like, I know people are watching. Because it's when I bring things up like that the meta players can form. And it's like, do I contribute to the meta? I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to. But at the same time, I do realize certain facts, right? And I realize certain things. That's the only thing, all it is. And I believe anybody in any class can play endgame content. You want to take a DK healer into vet trials, you can do that. If you want to take a Sorc healer in endgame trials, you can do that, right? Can you take a Templar tank in endgame trials? Yes. Walm, what's up? Morning. Hope you had a good night last night, dude. So you can take any class in that role. The devs designed it that way. but you have to understand what your group needs. That's it. If you know how to play that class in that role, what's some of the other things that your class needs to complete, some of the content. And that's the only thing I'm always saying. So when I came out with the Meta Breaker, I called it Meta Breaker for a reason. Because when I tested it, I have my, my Vicious and my Alkosh and all my Vicious Ophidian and my Alkosh and that. And I tested it. I was like, I'm getting a nice boost with this setup. If I want to use the Master Bow, you can do that. But I'm like, a lot of players might not have it. So let's just configure 2 players may have install optimized performance. All right. Why can't I do that? Why can't I give them a build that works? That's all I'm asking. And am I going to be wrong on a few things along the way? Absolutely. I'm human. We all are. Don't let pride consume. Do not let people stop you. If you wanted to become a content creator, right? Nothing's going to stop you. Can a Stam Warden Healer do endgame content? It's kind of interesting you mentioned that, Han. There was a streamer doing vet hard mode with a Stam Warden Healer last night. So I don't know, Han. I've never tried it. The one thing I feel like, if the Stam Warden Healer, like, I'll do it in a 4-man. Trials, the only reason I probably would not take the only reason I wouldn't try a Stam Warden Healer in endgame is the lack of buffs compared to other healers. The Stam Warden Healer works very well, especially with the bow. And one person was proving that last night with hard mode and the new DLC. They were streaming it. So yeah, you can do content, but would you take it in a trial? It doesn't offer enough buffs, and like compared to the Magicka Warden Healer. That's the only difference. That's the only reason I'm like, you could do it, but you'll be missing maybe 1 or 2 buffs. I healed V-Maul on a Stam Sork. Yeah. We're gonna take Posey here. That is totally a troll comment there. I gave Posey a chance there for the longest time. But yeah. Anyways, so Han, the funny thing about it is, I'm not gonna say it can't be done, because if you say it, somebody will do it. I'll be looking for that video. Oh, which one? Oh, the Stam Sork, what he was saying? Yeah, if he did it. But that's the one thing I've been getting hate on, guys. Like, I've healed some vet trials on my Sork healer. Right? At first, I was apprehensive about it, up until Morrowind. With the Morrowind changes, I felt more than confident it could be done. I felt more than confident I could do it. DK was never a problem to do DK healing. Never. Nightblade, same thing. Never a problem. And like one person was like, well, you're not offering that Minor Slayer unless you have Assassin. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, but this is just an overall configuration. David, morning, what's up? Hope you're having a good day, dude. And I'm like, but you can switch out abilities. And that's what you do as healers, right? There's going to be times that you're going to need a cleanse. There's going to be times that you might not need a cleanse. There might be times that you need to throw a shielding system. There might be times that you don't need a shielding system. So as healers, you have to adjust an ability or two based on what? The content you're approaching. Same thing with tanks, right? DPS, that's one of the luxuries DPS has. Maybe with the exception of, Cloak and Vigor. All right, because when we did 2 trials and we were in Asylum yesterday, and the one thing that frustrates me about Asylum is my rearming trap. Right, it's great when I can go ahead and get into a lot of the fights that you can apply the rearming trap and keep getting it, but to get it done, the main boss with all the mechanics, it's almost next to friggin' impossible. And we were talking about that. I'm like, at this point, I would think that a lightweight beast trap would be a better boon. Why? Because I could at least apply it at a ranged effect. Sure, it's not going to rearm, but the effect remains the same. And I'm like, to get on top of him, it's almost a death sentence depending on the phase. So it's like, it's frustrating, you know, when you're in those situations as a DPS and you have to, you know, the mechanics bend your will. So are there options? Well, lightweight beast trap, I was saying last night, would be a better option if we were going to apply and try to keep our critical damage up. I was like, damn, man, I think I'm going to go to lightweight beast trap on this friggin' trial. Holy crap. So it was just annoying. But, you know, we play for fun, and that's all good. And I always tell people, man, at the end of the day, I don't care what players want to roll, what they want to do, as long as we get content done. That's the only thing I care about at the end of the day, man. You know, configurations are going to differ. But a lot of people hate the fact that I called this build meta breaker. They hate it. They hate it. But the truth of it is, I'm sorry, it outperforms for me. It's just a better configuration for me, for my party. And it hits a little harder than the other setup. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can switch out Celine's if I want, monster set. But that ain't going to change the fact that, you know, I can go ahead, apply the powerful assault buff, and then everybody's going to get that. And if I want to maintain, if you want to use a Maelstrom or Master Boat, you can. I've always said that. With my configurations, I set it up so you can do that, right? The only thing of it is you usually just need 2 weapons on the dual wield for the proc effect, like Vicious Ophidian or some shit, or War Machine, or however. And a lot of people are like, well, that's why stamina users are dealing way more than Magicka. Well, Magicka can do it. Problem of it is they don't have the light attack or light and heavy attack. So Destro becomes more apparent for Magicka users because they can weave between bar swaps consistently. If you're running a Destro duel, which you can do, and your damage is crazy because you can get that double stacked effect, like tanks and like stamina DPS, you have to give up what? The weave, right? And that sort of sucks, especially if you're using Maelstrom staff and the weave becomes important, right? So I'm like, yeah, Maelstrom's great, you know, it's a great staff, sure, you know, but it's dependent on what? The weave. It is. It's just dependent on the weave. So, you know, I always tell people, it's a perk. Is it a requirement? Nah, sure. Because if your rotation sucks, you're still not going to do shit. Just the way it goes. But at the end of the day, whatever works for players is going to work. If people want to run a 5-3 config, have at it. If you want to do what supposedly is the meta, that's fine. I'm never going to do it. And I'm still going to get through the content. And I'm still going to do it. And I'm going to be practical about it. Right? That's it. And when people want to trash a build of mine, it's like, okay, you push something out there and tell me why it's better. You know, like a lot of people are saying Magplars are bad. Magplars aren't bad. It's how you configure them that's bad. Because what are you trying to get out of your Magplar? You know? I'm like, are you using, you know, Purifying Light? If you're not, you're losing DPS. You know? Yo, David! Happy Friday! Hope you had a good week, brother. Hope you had a good week. But, you know, we all can be wrong. Every content creator has. Right? We all have. And that's what I'm telling people. Yesterday I was wrong, and I'm telling people, don't let things, you know, whatever. Grow, learn, test. I'm gonna tell. How many times, guys, do I tell you guys? Don't believe what I say. You know, I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to provide builds that help average players, you know, optimize to get to the next level. If they decide to keep it, that's on them. If they want to decide to move on, that's on them. But I want to help players get through content. Rock, my man. I missed you this week, Rock. I missed you. I know you were hardworking, man. I missed you, though. I hope you had a good week, Rock. But, yeah, so once again, we see that War Machine is going to do really well on a 5-3 config. right? If you're going to run that type of configuration, War Machine's great. But here becomes another option, right? So let's get into this. Another option is a double stack effect with War Machine, right? That's another option that players don't take a look at. Mystic, I finally got my Maul skin. Congrats, dude. Congrats, dude. Congrats, Snoop. Dude, awesome. I knew you would, though. I just, you know, you've been plugging away, Snoop. You've been plugging away, Snoop. You've definitely been plugging. So, grats, man. You deserve it. You've been working so hard. Dude, that's so bad. And last night we were getting people started with the running, and I told people, I'm like, probably the hardest job in this is running. You know, it just is. Where is that? Okay. Right here. Okay. Got to get the weapons. Okay. So very, 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 very important here why I'm going to go over this. Okay. Okay, so let's say I wanted, and this is just for a demonstration here, right? I can set up with a double stack configuration with a back end proc. It's what I do with my Alkosh on my Stamsork, right? I don't need to have Alkosh static, right? I don't. I absolutely don't. I just need to hit a synergy when I'm on my dual wield bar. Same thing with War Machine. So War Machine, I don't have to keep static. I don't with the dual wield config. That's the beauty of it. I can stay with the 5 automatons, give up the master daggers or maelstrom weapons for what? An extra proc effect on ulti. Right? Oh, dude, like I said, you deserve it. So all of a sudden, when I'm on here, and you know, you're going through your rotation, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, let me just build up some ulti real quick. I should have turned that thing on. It's my fault. God, I should have turned that on. I really should have. Just let me weave up some. Okay. So, anyway, so I'm going throughout my rotation, right? I'm just kind of messing around. All of a sudden, you know, I have my ultimate up. Once I hit this, boom, right there. Major Slayer's applied. I switch back. I still have the config again. So now I'm still set up what? 5-3 config. So now I'm back to the 5-3 with what? The Major Slayer applied effect. I was one of the first players talking about that. Setting up, and that's how I set up my Vicious Ophidian. That's how I set up my Alkosh build. That's how I set up like War Machine builds, is a back end proc. So I maintain what? Either my 5-3 or my 5-4 config. That's another thing I'm always telling people. Like if I didn't want, let's say for example, I don't have a Maelstrom bow or whatever. Say people are using the Maelstrom bow. Once again, whatever. All right. And it's great. It's like, oh, okay, you know, I have the Maelstrom bow. You know, look at me. You know, and all of a sudden I hit the poison inject. Because I'm using Maelstrom. It's going to benefit what? My Endless Hail, not my poison injector. So it's like, okay, well, what's my damage here? 2927. 2927. Oh, okay. All right, sweet. But all of a sudden I'm like, no. You know, I take a look, I'm like, it's one ability, right? I want to give you guys a little piece of my mind how I configure all this and why I came up with the builds I do. And I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, all of a sudden you're kind of like, but because this is why. So I'm going to get a War Machine bow, right? We're going to go ahead, get that Nirnholm. Keep in mind it's not gold, but whatever. All right. But, so all of a sudden, you're taking a look at it. And you're like, oh, look at this, you know. 2927. Oh, that's badass. That's so badass, right? Oh, that is killer. All of a sudden, I switch it out. And I'm going to go ahead and grab War Machine. Okay. Come on. Alright. Think I'll do more? You guys think I'll do more damage? Slightly under. It's not much. That's what I'm telling people. It's like, and if it was gold, let's gold this out really quick. Actually I can do that. This. All right. Hold on. Okay. All right, browse services, woodworking station. All right. Wrong button. Hold on. All right. We're gonna place it. We'll upgrade. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Two 731 base 496 4731. Come on. Dots. Okay. Look. Now it's under. Why? Because I have to lose somewhere to gain. I have to lose to gain. I have to. I'm going to lose on the poison injector to do what? Gain on the endless hail. So I'll lose just for one effect. That's why I don't like Maelstrom Bow. It's like, okay, whatever. I mean, I guess. And I always tell people that's why you don't need to have anything. But when I take a look at that nice Master Bow, sorry, man. Once I hit this dude with this, that's 3980. Now look when I hit him again with it. 426. See what I'm saying? I'm like, and that applies to every effect. It's like, you know, a lot of people want to just whatever. And I always tell people test, 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 and test, and more test, and plug away. So when people want to rag on my builds and whatever have you, I'm not saying I'm always right. And I don't want people to believe that. I just come out with builds that work for me and potentially works for other. Metabreaker, by far, works. And I'm sorry about it. Actually, I'm not, but at the same time, people want to hate me for it. Have at it. And when they start like doing it and start setting up like 2 DPS, and we was talking about this last night, they were like, you know, how many players would you suggest should be running? 1 second. We were talking about that last night, and they were like, how many people would you say should run Powerful Assault as a DPS? I'm like, well, you'd only want, like, you know, your SAM users using it. You wouldn't put it on necessarily your tank if your tank's wearing out. So say if your off tank's wearing Alkosh, your main tank's wearing a mitigating set, right? To help maintain resources. Or he's wearing Alkosh or whatever. I'm like, I would rather have the Stamplar and another DPS roll it. Why? Because it only applies to 4 people, right? And I'm like, but the Stamplar is the better benefit because of the way the configuration works with the Caltrops. You can put it on the back bar. Can't always say that with someone like the Stamblade. So Stamplar gets a little bit more, and possibly Stampsork, right? And I'm like, so those 2 classes could benefit from a setup like that more than like whatever. And then there's other people who like the Blades or Stampsork. You'd want to maybe put in War Machine. Why? Because they get that nice proc in for the back for the Major Slayer. That's relevantly applied. So you apply effects like War Machine and then Powerful Assault on back end procs. Don't have to be static, right? You maintain the primary set of whether it's Hundings, Automaton, whatever have you, whatever. You're offering a back end proc. But it's like the simple fact of it is, Sunder wasn't talked about until what? I said something about it. I'm like, nobody's running Sunder set. And yet it's a huge, powerful deduction set that should be applied. Why? Because they'll take the difference of the values that you can offset in your penetration, that you don't have to alligate, or you don't need the said Mundus or said trait. Now all of a sudden people are now talking about it. Do people think that's coincidence? Do people believe that's a coincidence? That's the only thing I'm asking. When nobody wanted to talk about it, and Sunder's been out for how long, and nobody wanted to say something about it, now they're saying it. It's like, you know, I'm going to get hate no matter what I do. No matter what I do, even if if I make a mistake, that's just icing on the cake for those players, right? Because nobody else has ever made a mistake. Nobody else has like said, oh, jump point needs to be applied after a hole. No, it doesn't. You stack 100 into the CP. That's a bad advice. Players not using over penetrating. Okay, sure. Everybody should run sharpen. Everybody generalizing. It's like I came in and it's like I'm not perfect. Not by any means. I'm not perfect. But I just want to help players. And I want to help this community. And that's it. And I think the content creators are doing a great job. You know, now I think they are doing a good job. And they're getting away from it. But I just don't want toxicity. I don't want, if somebody has a mag DK and wants to do a trial, why am I not going to let him? If he's a good, strong player who can get the content done, why am I not going to let him? Because the meta dictates? That's kind of backwards thinking, isn't it? Isn't that a backwards approach? To say, well, your class sucks right now. You might not suck as a player, but that class sucks and that affects our score. So, no, we can't use you. What's toxic? You guys tell me. People tell me. You tell me what's toxic. All right? When people want to discriminate, when it always could be any class, any role, why do people want to discriminate and provide toxic shit? Oh, we're not going to use a Magplar. Not going to happen. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not building a config like that. I'm hitting this. Like Soul Assault. Like, how many people are running Soul Assault? How many? Not every class can you pull it off. You put it on a Templar with the Magicka scale. Shit. Man, 64K in like 3.2 seconds? Yeah, no. At 90 ultimate? Yeah, get out of here. Get out of here. That's what I'm saying, man. People want to hate my builds. And it's like, you know, I'm building for the average player. To do what? Get through it. That's it. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We all make mistakes. And the truth, and once again it comes back down to this, the truth is the meta players can't handle the truth. They're too consumed in what one person says. And now those players, those same players that they worship, aren't even saying that is the case anymore. So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of my subscribers. I want to thank all my viewers. I even want to thank my trolls because they're the ones who give me the fire to continue to do this. Even though I love all of you. I love every one of you guys. But it's because of the trolls that I keep pushing. Because they give me the inspiration to go what? Try to get better. Try to make builds that aren't copying other people who wait and you can do something different in this game and succeed. That's what this channel's about, and it's for you. It's for all of us. It needs to happen. So, and I want to thank the content creators now because they're trying to change it. It's a slow process. We'll just keep plugging away, and maybe soon things will be where they need to be. All right. I'm Mystic Raven, the CSO Daily. Thank you guys. Thank all of you for watching. And once again, always, have a nice day.